We've been hearing about Bill and Ted 3 for some time now.
Yeah.
First of all, let me just break down what I understand
I'm
of
going to
this story.
disappoint you on that one.
You are?
Yeah,
Why?
I have nothing to add.
To the current conversation. Well, we'll see about that. Let me just break down what I understand of this story. You guys are sort of approaching middle age. You were meant to be great and save the world. You have to write the greatest song ever to save the world. You haven't done it yet, and you're reconciling to yourself to kind of like disappointment and how to get out of it. Yes? Is that kind of the crux of it?
In a nutshell, yeah, kind of.
Are you married to the princesses, or are you dealing with divorce too?
I can't tell you that.
Tell me about the princesses?
No.
Or the Grim Reaper?
No.
This has been, come on, the Grim Reaper.
Yeah.
This has been in, one interesting thing as an outside observer is that this has been seemingly in development for the last several years, which happens with movies. I mean, if you think about how long Ghostbusters took to actually sort of happen and go into production.
Sure.
But what have been some of the challenges around getting this thing going in terms of production?
Honestly, they're fairly mundane, getting the script right, getting the right team on board, really movies take a really long time to get off the ground. I mean, sometimes they don't, but it's pretty uncommon.
Yeah.
I mean, it is not uncommon for them to take 5, 10, 15 years to get launched. So, I mean, we're kind of in the same old world we've been in. Part of the issue, I think, for us, which is partly our fault, to be honest with you, is that it hit the press so early. There was a lot of interest from the fan base, which is great, and we love that. How can you not? But it did draw us into a public debate about it way before it was anywhere. So it's like, I feel like we've been dragging the public along through the normal, tedious process of getting a movie off the ground. So there's no great drama there. It's all fairly mundane. But we are getting close. We're just in the process. It's hard to say we're getting closer because we've been close for a long time. It's just about getting it done.
In terms of sort of meetings with the financial people, do you look at things or point to things like even Fury Road or things, or Ghostbusters going to production, or things that are kind of swinging back, and point to that as an example? Is that some of the conversation for you?
Yeah, they're not dummies, so they know all that. They know that the Bill and Ted brand is really strong.
Yeah.
I mean, they know their kids love it as well as their generation, so it has this sort of cross-generational thing. So, I mean, we haven't really had to, bend over backwards. I think it's really just about getting all the elements together and getting the script right and then just the arduous time it takes to get financing properly locked.
Yeah, it's funny because and I don't know if you feel this way too, but there's something about the idea of sort of hitting midlife and having this idea of greatness for yourself, and maybe it hasn't quite happened the way you want it, that feels very relatable to me for most people, especially raised in the generation of you can do everything.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's sort of what was interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it speaks to the whole idea of millennials too, and this whole notion of the mythic narrative, and how we all buy into this idea of the mythic narrative and what you're supposed to achieve along these specific lines. Definitely the movie thematically gets into that stuff. And it's something that everyone can relate to, because I've got kids, and my teenagers wrestles with this all the time, So it's like, what are you going to do? And, how will you be able to make sure your life goes the way that you want it to go? And
which it doesn't, and
it'll be more interesting. Is that you realize when you don't want it to do that.
Yeah.
That's not the road you really want to take. So
is it something that you guys think about when you think about the greatest song ever written, that we can never really hear that?
Of course,
right?
Yeah, totally evasive. Yeah.
There's no way.
Yeah.
It's another thing I sort of wanted to ask too was, we talked to, I think a colleague of mine talked to Keanu Reeves a while ago and asked which of the two was his favorite, and I'm curious which one yours is.
I mean, honestly, I like them both a lot. It's really funny because the second one is more my sense of humor, just personally. I mean, not that really, it doesn't really matter. I mean,
and you got to be evil robot.
Overly modest, but yeah, it doesn't really matter which one I like better. But because they are both really sweet, and they are really similar in a way, despite the kind of tonal differences of the two. The second one has, more of my sense of humor, and I got to play my grandma. I love getting in makeup and doing characters like that. So, I love, that was super, super fun. But I have a major soft spot for the first one, and how, because I think what Stephen Herrick did with that was it was deceptively difficult. I think that the movie has this it's not a serious movie, obviously. It's pretty light. But it has this real sweetness to it, a genuine sincerity to the movie. And I think that's much harder to do than it looks. So I have a lot of respect for the first one.
It's really funny that you say that because just this morning, my boss and I were talking about it, and I was like, look, it's obviously a comedy, but I actually think it's a really great message.
Right.
It's just so simple. It's optimistic and hopeful, and there's an innocence, which is so rare right now.
Yeah.
And it's just like, be excellent to each other and have fun.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's kind of it.
Like, what gets better than that?
Yeah.
Do you think the idea that they were told that they were supposed to, I hate to keep hitting on this, but it's interesting to me that they were supposed to be great and save the world is kind of like that pressure that we do put on ourselves and even maybe some parents on their kids when they're just like, you're going to be great.
Right. Yeah.
Why not? You're just going to live a normal life and that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess I think we're beginning to get past that in our climate. I think that I think that we're beginning to sort of express to our kids that life is, about questions more than it is about answers, and that is a good way to live your life.
One final question on this. There are the Bill and Ted comics out now, the new ones. Is that kind of a smart way for fans to clue in, to kind of keep abreast of what's happening that'll lead into the sequel?
Well, it was done completely separate, just to be clear. It was not part of...
So it's not like laying the groundwork?
No. I mean, we love those guys, and we're huge fans of what they've done, and we don't say that lightly. Like, everybody loves those comics. They are really well done and really well written. So we were really pleasantly surprised, we think they're great, but it does reintroduce the kind of the story background to people before we dive in.
The villain, yeah.
Yeah.
The main baddie. You know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
All right.
Who may or may not appear in this one, but yeah.
Who may or may not appear in this film.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, I think it's a most excellent idea, and I hope that we
Awesome.
do see it. I hope that the financial people get on board and do it quickly.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming
Thank
in.
you.